Greetings, everyone. My name is Marissa Dooling Esposito, and today I will be talking about Robert Kegan's theory of identity development. Now, before we get into the theory, I wanted to share a few facts about Robert Kegan and put a face to the name. Robert Kegan is an American developmental psychologist and author. He attended Dartmouth College and earned his PhD at Harvard University. He wrote 4 books on development, and he's taught for 40 years at the Harvard Graduate School of Education until his recent retirement in 2016. All right, let's get into it. Robert Kegan's theory of identity development is a constructive developmental theory that focuses on the growth of how people construct meaning from their life experiences. This theory was first introduced in 1982 in Kegan's book, The Evolving Self. In 1994, Kegan revised his theory in his book, In Over Our Heads, The Mental Demands of Modern Life. Kegan's theory was inspired by Piaget's stages of development, but Kegan believed that Piaget's original theory lacked in the aspects of emotion or the experience of development. Additionally, Kegan's theory extends upon Piaget's theory by going past adolescence. Now, the main focus of Kegan's theory is the evolution of consciousness, the personal unfolding of ways of organizing experience that are not simply replaced as we grow, but subsumed into more complex systems of mind. The growth is measured by the movement through different ways of knowing. Kegan first referred to these 5 ways as stages of development in 1982, and then orders of consciousness in 1994, and forms of mind in 2000. For this presentation, I will be taking the approach used in our textbook and using the numerical orders alongside the names of the forms of mind associated with later orders. As progress is made through these orders of consciousness, a person experiences transformations in the way they think or make meaning in their lives. Before we move on to the orders, there are 2 important concepts I believe should be discussed first: the definitions of subject and object in regards to this theory, and Kegan's holding environment. As individuals move through the stages of development, Kegan believes that there are aspects of ourselves that are subject and object. Now, for subject is something that we are. It's part of ourselves, it's not something that we can point at or reflect upon, and it's not something that we can be held responsible for or be in control of. Object, however, is something that we have. It's something that we know and can be reflected upon and related to other things, and we take responsibility and maintain control over that which is object. Kegan's theory involves the move from subject to object as an individual develops. As you take on more elements as object, your views on life and the world become more complex. Now for the holding environment. Kegan acknowledged that the process of growth can be painful since it changes the way a person functions in the world. The holding environment was created as a way to support these individuals in their current stage and encourage the transition to the next stage. Kegan refers to this environment as a tricky transitional culture, an evolutionary bridge, a context for crossing over. Keeping this all in mind, let's move on to the orders. Order 0. This is where we all begin as newborn infants. Kegan describes it as living in an objectless world. Anything a newborn senses is believed to be an extension of themselves. At 18 months, they begin to realize objects outside of themselves, which helps to move them to the next stage. Parents must remain a constant part of their life at this stage as they test boundaries between themselves and the environment. Children develop to order 1 around the age of 2 when they realize they have control over their reflexes. Their way of thinking is fantastic and illogical. Their feelings are impulsive and fluid. Their social relating is egocentric. Basically, they are living the moment and are attached to whatever or whoever is with them at that point in time. Parents should support their fantasies while also challenging them to accept responsibility for themselves as they perceive the world in a realistic manner while moving on to Order 2. Order 2 is known as the instrumental mind. Individuals in this order are capable of thinking more logically and organized. They are able to relate to others as unique beings. They develop a sense of who they are and what they want. Individuals require confirmation of the person they have become as a form of support, and they also require encouragement to consider the expectations and needs of others as a form of challenge. This helps them move on to the next order. Order 3 is the socialized mind. An individual's way of thinking is more abstract at this order, and they are aware of their feelings and the internal processes associated with them. They are able to make commitments to other people and ideas. Acceptance by others is crucial at this stage. Individuals find support in mutually rewarding relationships and experiences. Their challenge is resisting codependence and being able to establish an independent life. Order 4 is the self-authoring mind. The main focus of this order is self-authorship, which is the ability to define one's beliefs, identity, and social relations. Individuals in this order are able to take responsibility for their internal authority and establish their own set of values and ideologies. Relationships are no longer the reason for one's existence, but rather just a part of one's world. Support is found in acknowledgement of the individual's independence and self-regulation. Challenge is found when significant others refuse relationships that aren't intimate and mutually rewarding. This challenge encourages individuals to develop further. And finally, Order 5, the self-transforming mind. Kegan claims that this order is infrequently reached and is impossible to reach before the age of 40. Individuals at this stage can see beyond themselves and others and are able to understand how all people and systems interconnect. Relationships are truly intimate, with nurturance and affiliation as its key characteristics. And here we have a visual representation of the orders of the mind. What I really like about this is it shows the transformation between subject and object as you move through each stage. I also like how it shows that the underlying structure of meaning making starts off as very singular, very specific, very limited, and then just grows to become more complex over time as you move through the orders. There are 2 studies using Kegan's theory that I came across that I found interesting. The first being the Adult Basic Education / English for Speakers of Other Languages study. This study was a 1-year study of 41 adult learners enrolled in programs that were intended to enhance their English skills and their effectiveness in their roles as students, parents, and workers. The goal was to gain a better understanding of how adults perceive program learning and if these programs help them to enact a new social role or change them. Their findings indicated that these tight-knit programs acted as holding environments where the students supported and challenged each other, which encouraged positive development. This was mainly due to the fact that these adult learners were at different orders of consciousness, and since they all had different ways of knowing, they were able to support and challenge each other. The second study was the West Point Longitudinal Study. This was a 4-year study of West Point cadets from the class of 1998 using subject-object interviews. The goal was to provide educators and college student development professionals with a framework for better understanding the developmental achievements and constraints of college-age students. Their findings indicated that the challenge for most of the cadets was in moving from Order 2, self-interest, to Order 3, thinking in terms of being part of a community. Now, Kegan's theories have faced some forms of criticism. One of them being that he writes in a very psychoanalytical tone, and the books are dense. They are not easy to read through, and student affairs educators may have issues working with the material. I believe because of this, it wasn't until Marcia Baxter Magolda built upon Kegan's work that the theory became popular in the realm of education. Additionally, Kegan was vague in regards to the research foundations of his work, which can lead to skepticism about its validity. Criticism aside, I really enjoyed learning about Kegan's theory, and I believe it can be a useful tool in helping students develop their identity in college. These are my references, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Thank you.